So I have been using Lightroom Classic for quite a long time, but I just found a trick that literally is blowing my mind using the built-in filters feature. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Lightroom filters, you've got three options built into Lightroom. You've got radial filters, which is essentially a circle or spherical thing you can put over it. You've got graduated filters that you can drag from top, bottom, left, right, whole across the whole photo, and then you've got brushes, and all of these you can utilize in a pretty crazy way, but I don't think that a lot of people have been using them to their full potential. So that's what I'm gonna be showing you guys today, is how to use filters to get the best quality photos you possibly can using Lightroom. So my name is Alex, and I focus primarily on automotive photography, but the tools and tricks that I'm about to teach you work for any genre of photography across the board. And I'm not gonna show you entire edits, but rather what I'm gonna do is just teach you these tools and allow you guys the freedom and creativity to use them yourself, because there's so many cool ways that we can do it. So let's just dive into Lightroom here, and I'll walk you through a quick edit on my computer. So here we have a decently underexposed image, and that is done on purpose because I wanted to retain the information in the sky, but clearly we have a pretty dark foreground here. So before I even touch any of the treatment here with the exposure, I'm actually just gonna go directly up and grab a graduated filter. Now, typically what I do in automotive photography is I'll drag that from the top or the bottom or bring it from here. But what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna utilize this completely different. We're gonna take our mouse off to the side completely and drag here. Then we're gonna hit O, and it's gonna show us the entirety of what that graduated filter is affecting. From here, of course, you can adjust your exposures however you want. But what I'm here to tell you guys about is the range mask tool. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna click on range mask. We're gonna go down to luminance. And what I wanna do is actually bring up the exposure on the foreground. So I'm gonna click on show luminance mask, and then we're just gonna drag this little guy here all the way over, and you'll see how this affects the photo. What this is telling you to do is only focus on the shadows. So you can see the red part is showing us that the shadows are gonna be affected. And then from there, you can just adjust your smoothness one way or another. And we're gonna try this here. So we're just gonna hit O a couple times. And then from here, we're just gonna drag up our exposure. So what I think we're doing here is just maximizing our dynamic range on this photo. It clearly looks a little bit washed out when we do that. So we're just gonna bring our contrast up a little bit here. All right, so now we're just gonna make another one on the other side. The reason I do that is just so I keep organized if I have to come back into these later. Hold Option, and then that'll reset our entire filter there. And then for this one, we're actually gonna try and bring down the highlights. So we're gonna click on show luminance mask and then just drag this over till we're affecting just our highlights. You can drag your smoothness however you want there. Let's try that. Hit O one more time, and then we're just gonna drop our exposure in the sky. So there you go. Without even going into our treatment panel, we've brought a lot of life back and a lot of dynamic range back into this photo, and at which point you can start to adjust this photo to your personal taste. As you can see on this finished photo here, one of the ways that I love to use my graduated filters is to darken the sky and the foreground naturally to actually draw your eye's attention to the car. So speaking of the car, let's get into the radial filter. So the radial filter is this guy here. We're gonna drag it over top of our car, and we're gonna go down to the range mask tool again, and instead of hitting luminance, we're going to hit color. So from here, it's pretty simple. You're just gonna grab this color picker here, and you're just gonna drag it over top of whatever color of your car. And if we hit O, you can see what it's affecting, so we can decide what amount we want. And as well, if it's not grabbing the car perfectly or subject, whatever you're shooting, you can hold Shift and drag it over certain parts of the vehicle, isolating just certain colors. And then again, just grab that amount and slide it around till you're really happy with what you're seeing there. And then from there, we're gonna hit O to get out of that, and we can just adjust that car itself and pull out some of the details. If you want, you can do a hue shift on the car. It just gives you a really cool way of editing just that specific feature. And I'm gonna give you one more example of something that I use it on to adjust the colors in my sky. Really simple to do. So on this photo here, I have a bunch of graduated filters being used here. For this one, you can see that I'm affecting just my highlights up here, and on this graduated filter, I'm adjusting my shadows. So on this photo, I have quite a few graduated filters going across it. If I reset this graduated filter, you'll see that the sky and the highlights are very warm. And when I exported it and kind of uploaded it to my Instagram, it was coming across way warmer than any of my other images. And if I adjusted any of the other features, it just kind of made it look too desaturated, or I wasn't able to isolate the colors that I wanted. So I grabbed the luminance mask tool, just picked the highlights of this photo, you can see by dragging here. And then what I did is I actually dragged the color temperatures down just to cool down the highlights. So the sunset still looks really cool, but it's not too warm, and you can see it's affecting as well the hood of the car. So it looks super natural, not like spooky supernatural, but natural. Looks normal. If you have a color palette or a way that you are editing your photos specifically for Instagram and you want to keep a uniform look across your grid, this is another great way to add in those specific colors into the highlights or shadows of your image in a very specific way. For example, I tend to use 35 in my split toning a lot, and so in this way I'm able to just add that same color palette into my highlights to make my sunrise look just how my Instagram would look. So this is a really cool way to isolate just the highlights of the photo and affect those parts individually. So I know that's a really quick breakdown of those tools, but when I learned to drag and click just all the way over the photo, that kind of blew my mind. Imagine what you guys can do with colors, trees, just selecting a tree color and being able to affect just that and bringing the details out. I think the potential of using these tools is massive, just so much fun. I'm going to be using these so much more in my photography to come. If you guys are interested in automotive photography and you're not getting results that you're super happy with, I do have presets down below that you guys can test out. As well, as you can see in my Lightroom here, I'm working on a pretty cool product that I think you guys are gonna like. So stay tuned for when I drop this. I'm just tweaking things oh so slightly just to make sure that it's a really cool tool for all us car photographers to use. So that is it for me, you guys. I hope that you learned something from this. Again, this blew my mind when I learned it for the first time. So find creative and new ways to use these tools, and I think you'll enjoy it. But otherwise, if you learned something, hit that like button for me because it helps the channel out a ton. And if you enjoy automotive content, cars, cameras, whatever, or just want to hang out in the cool car community, subscribe down below. As well, you guys, I would love it if you came into check me out on Instagram. Come say hi there. I love hanging out and chatting with you guys over there. But otherwise, I do hope to see you in the next video. Peace, guys.